Zuckerberg's new faith in freedom of speech can attract criticism of foreign governments, and traditional media have pressured to censor more and more and more and more, stated the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg. Some social media users, many of whom were excluded or had their posts removed by the social media platforms, say the Meta CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, that the platform intended to allow a higher degree of freedom of speech is more than just a political change, representing a complete reversion of the company in the last decade. Meta is the Facebook and Instagram controlling company. According to the statement of Zuckerberg on January 7, the Meta platforms are under government pressure to censor content since 2016, and often obey, until now. Zuckerberg and Joel Kaplan announced today is a significant distance from the predominant supervision, even censorship, which prevailed in Silicon Valley in the last decade or more, said James Pinkerton, political analyst and ex-White House during President Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Kaplan is the new director of Meta's Global Matters and supposedly played a leadership role in the elaboration of new policies. Facebook was amongst the main organizations, along with Google/YouTube and Twitter, now XX, accused of removing or concealing content that conflicted with official narratives about global warming, originals and vaccines of COVID-19, race and gender topics, and in the case of Hunter Biden's incriminating laptop, information that could tarnish the Democratic political campaigns. Now, Zuckerberg says that your company is turning into a new page, admitting that governments and traditional media have pressured to censor more and more, and that the Meta platforms have imposed very censorship, removing millions of content pieces every day. It's time to get back to our roots around Facebook freedom and Instagram free, declared Zuckerberg, promising us to get rid of fact-checkers and replace them with Commonwealth notes similar to the X, starting in the USA. New Facebook program in the future, the Meta will emulate the community notes of the XX, by which the platform users add notes to post notes that they believe are false, deceptive or without proper context, rather than employ official fact-checkers that remove or dismonetize the content, said Zuckerberg. Those who provide community notes are supposed to be chosen by consensus votes from other users and are selected to represent several political viewpoints. Meta will also enlighten and simplify its rules of conduct and remove restrictions about discussion of topics as immigration, gender identity, political and other social issues, he said. And the company will relocate its teams of trust and security and moderation of content discussion to Texas in an effort to reduce political bias. I have hope that, as you said, Zuckerberg, we're in a new era, where social media platforms are encouraged to protect freedom of speech, said Jeremy Tedesco, Senior Vice President of Corporate Engagement of Alliance Defend Freedom, to Epoch Times. Other users, who faced censorship on Facebook, also expressed optimism. The political analyst and climate scientist Roger Pielka, who observed that it had been removed from the Facebook platform by unknown thinking crimes, declared in a publication at Substack that the policing of views on Facebook and other platforms began with specialists in the subject and quickly motivated the appearance of self-intitulated disinformationalists who claimed not only to be able to identify disinformation and evil actors but also inoculate the ignorance against falseities. Pielka has been a fairness critic of science and certain political and claims of climate movement and had many posts removed as a result of that. Facing government pressure, the social media companies have faced intense pressure from government authorities in the United States and abroad that want platforms to be more aggressive in the content blockage that the government disapproves. Every time more countries in Europe have criminalized what they call a hate speech, including processing a parliamentary in Finland for quoting the online Bible and online in a radio interview about the support of their church to homosexuality. This case was finally rejected in court. In 2021, President Joe Biden accused social media companies of taking lives from people by not removing what he called disinformation on his platforms about vaccines against COVID-19. In May 2024, the Committee of the Council of the House of the Council, led by the Republican White Party, reported on Facebook censorship, posting, video, and other online contents. At the end of 2021, Facebook, YouTube and Amazon changed their moderation policies of content that responded directly to the critics of the Biden government, said the report. A case was moved by Louisiana and Missouri's Attorney General against the Biden administration by job-owning, or violation of the First Amendment by companies of the social media to censor protected speech. However, in June 2024, the Supreme Court decided against the demanders, arguing they had no legitimacy to move the action. In addition to restricting the freedom of speech, Zuckerberg won the headlines in 2020 for donating $400 million to campaigns to get votes, including payment for mass voting ballots and the installation of unmonitored collections. The critics claimed that these donations, nicknamed Zuckerbucks, were not distributed uniformly by the United States, but rather concentrated in indecisive states and in districts with greater probability to vote for Democratic candidates. Out of the United States, Facebook also worked with foreign governments to restrict what they considered disinformation and content speech, as advertised in the post of Zuckerberg of 2018 called Project for Governance and Content. Facebook's collaboration with foreign governments regarding speech controls occurred in the middle of European authorities, including fines imposed by the German government for not removing content that they considered harmful. Many analysts say this week's ad represents a drastic change regarding company actions so far. It's a complete twist of 180 degrees in relation to the disastrous blueprint of 2018 Facebook, who aligned plans to work with European governments to create laws and regulations that establish where the lines must be traced between the freedom of speech and security, said. The clarity added by new policies, combined with the new approach of the Meta for application, it would be a big step ahead for freedom of speech, not just in the US, but also global. Looking for help from the Trump-Zuckerberg administration said that he will seek support from the new government to defend their freedom policies against foreign government retaliations. We're gonna work with President Trump to press governments around the world that are going after American companies and pressing to censor more, declared Zuckerberg. The US have the strongest constitutional protections for freedom of speech in the world. Europe has a higher and higher number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making building anything innovative there. The Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to remove things quietly. In August 2024, the Supreme Court Judge Alexander of Moraes threatened to banish the X in that country and ordered the platform to close countless accounts, including the opposition politician. In the same month, Musk removed all the Brazilian employees in the country, claiming that Moraes had threatened them from prison. The president-elect Donald Trump expressed support to Zuckerberg, stating, "Meta, Facebook, I think they've come a long way." Elon Musk also complimented Meta's new policies, writing in the X in response to Zuckerberg's ad, "That's nice." Many critics now praise Zuckerberg for following what can be a difficult path, with many governments still trying to punish platforms that defy official narratives. "Courage generates courage," said Tedesco. The Lord. Zuckerberg didn't need to point the global censorship problem in his ad, but he worked hard to do it. If you Zuckerberg fulfilling his promise to remain firm against censor government regimes, he won't be alone.